The year 1993 marked a time when Israel and Palestine were very close to drafting a peaceful solution. However, what happened afterward that the situation worsened to the extent of today's war between them? To understand today's crisis between Israel and Palestine properly, we need to delve into history. That's why in today's video, we will explore the detailed history between the two nations, including how the country of Israel came into being and how the conflict between Israel and Palestine began.
Tensions between Israelis and Palestinians fueled by a new surge in violence.
2 years has broken out between Israelis and Palestinians. We have another session of violence here.
Israeli settlers throwing rocks and setting houses in Palestinian neighborhoods.
The UN is expressing alarm attacks in occupied Palestinian territory.
أنت ما عرفت تساند الكردستان يعني عدد الشباب تقريبا 7 شباب.
This is the country known as Israel. The area highlighted in yellow represents Israel, while the gray-colored area is the West Bank and Gaza Strip, collectively known as Palestine. Palestine is, in fact, within the borders of Israel. The location denoted by a star is Jerusalem, which is the primary cause of the conflict between Christians, Jews, and Muslims. These conflicts trace back to 1047 BC, when this region was known as the Kingdom of Israel. During that time, Jews inhabited the area, and it was ruled by King Solomon. The capital of the Kingdom of Israel was Jerusalem, where King Solomon constructed the first temple of Jews, known as Temple Mount. Jews worshipped regularly in this temple. However, in the year 586 BC, Babylonians invaded and demolished this first temple. Later, this area was occupied by the Persians who reconstructed the temple, but it was named the Second Temple. Eventually, the Roman Empire took over this area and demolished the Second Temple, leaving only a wall standing. Jesus Christ was born into a Jewish family and grew up under the Roman Empire. Instead of adhering to the core teachings of Judaism in Jerusalem, he began his own teachings, which gained rapid recognition. However, the Jews did not approve of his teachings, leading to escalated tensions. According to Christians, Jesus was publicly crucified by Jews in Jerusalem, resulting in his death. Christians believe that only Jews were responsible for Jesus Christ's crucifixion. This event fueled negative sentiments against Jews, which persist to this day. During this time, the Roman Empire was running smoothly until the death of King Valerius in 306, after which his son, Constantine the Great, ascended the throne. Constantine developed a strong affinity for Christianity and became the first Roman king to adopt it through his conversion. Christianity began to spread throughout the Roman Empire. However, due to Jesus' crucifixion by Jews, hatred towards Jews also spread widely. In Constantine's kingdom, Jews were subjected to severe torture and persecution, leading to their migration to various parts of the world, particularly to Europe. In the area where Jesus was crucified, Constantine the Great built the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, approximately 2 kilometers away from the Temple Mount. Jews refer to it as Temple Mount, while Muslims call it Bait ul-Maqdis. After this, in the year 638 AD, after defeating the Roman Empire, came the Arab army of Umar, when this Jewish area fell into the hands of Arab army. In Jerusalem, where Jews had their second temple, the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque were constructed. This occurred because the Muslim prophet reached Jerusalem and offered prayers there. The Al-Aqsa Mosque was built on the spot where he prayed, and from where he ascended to heaven after stepping on a holy stone. The Dome of the Rock was constructed on the same spot. The Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque are depicted on the screen, along with the Western Wall. This entire area, as shown, is called Temple Mount by Jews, and Muslims refer to it as Bait ul-Maqdis. Non-Muslims are not permitted entry into the Al-Aqsa Mosque, but Jews are allowed to worship at the Western Wall. 2 kilometers from this area is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and this area of around 37 acres holds great significance for Christians, Muslims, and Jews. Now you can understand the importance of Jerusalem, which has led to the emergence of 3 major world religions. For Muslims, after Mecca and Medina, This area became the third holiest site in Islam. Jews, even after settling anywhere in the world, always offer their prayers with their faces turned toward Jerusalem. Until today, any Jew would pray facing this direction only. This is the reason there are so many issues regarding this area and why all three communities are deeply invested in it. Now, in the year 1891, the kingdom area of Jews was taken by Arabs. However, Jews who were living all across the world, especially in Europe, always harbored the desire to return to their motherland. In the same year, in 1891, a Jewish writer by the name of Leon Pinsker wrote a book titled Auto-Emancipation. In this book, he highlighted how Jews in Europe were subjected to mistreatment, despite any laws created for them, as Europeans did not consider them equal citizens. Pinsker argued that Jews needed to take control of their own destiny and establish an independent state for themselves. Taking all this into account, Jews initiated a movement known as Zionism. All this continued around the year 1914, when the First World War was on the brink of starting. Germany and Britain found themselves at odds with each other, with the Ottoman Empire, which ruled over the Kingdom of Jews, supporting Germany. The British devised a clever strategy, promising the Arab revolutionaries that, in exchange for their assistance in defeating the Ottoman Empire, they would grant them control over the Palestine area. The Arab revolutionaries were fighting to create a unified Arab country, aspiring for one Arab nation stretching from Syria to Yemen. The British made similar promises to the Jews, assuring them of assistance in creating their own Jewish country near Palestine. They did so to appease American Jews and gain influence in American politics. However, in reality, the British made a secret agreement with the French. As soon as the Ottoman Empire fell after World War I, Britain and France divided the Middle East area between themselves. The British took control of the Palestine region from 1918 to 1948, during which the entire area was under the administration of the British government. Meanwhile, in Germany, Hitler rose to power, leading to the mass genocide of millions of Jews. Fleeing from Hitler-controlled Europe to escape persecution, many Jews sought refuge in various countries, with some finding sanctuary in America. However, a significant number of Jews sought refuge in Palestine. Initially, Britain permitted their entry, but later imposed restrictions, preventing more Jews from coming to Palestine. This led to the emergence of an Israeli nationalist movement in Palestine during the 1940s. Simultaneously, a Palestinian nationalist movement also began, with Palestinians demanding their own independent country. In 1948, the British government realized that enough was enough and that they could not remain there any longer. They left the Jews to form their own country and the Palestinians to form theirs. They accepted that they could not come up with a partition plan and handed the responsibility to the United Nations. The British then left Palestine. In 1947, the United Nations released the Partition Plan. In this plan, the United Nations allocated 55% of the area for the Jewish country and 45% for the Arab Palestinian country. Jerusalem, a historically significant area for three religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, was designated to be under international control by the United Nations. The Jews accepted this plan and named their new country Israel. Here, the country of Israel was born in 1948. However, the other neighboring Arab countries weren't pleased with this plan at all. So they started a war against Israel, stating that they would not allow the Jews to take any part of the land. This war is named the First Arab-Israeli War of 1948, and it's a very historic conflict in and of itself. More than 5 countries were fighting against this tiny new country. The Jews living in Israel knew that just 5 years prior, they had seen how the rest of the world treated them, and now all the Arab countries were starting a war against them. If they didn't fight to survive, they wouldn't be able to survive at all. So, to save themselves, they fought with all they had, and very surprisingly, Israel won the war, defeating all these countries. After the war ended in 1949, Israel occupied several areas that were supposed to be part of Palestine according to the UN partition plan. The Gaza Strip area went to Egypt, and the West Bank area went to Jordan. This meant that the Palestinians no longer had a country. More than 700,000 Palestinians had to leave their homes and become refugees in Arab countries. This is named the 1948 Palestinian Exodus. After this, in 1967, the Second Arab-Israeli War took place. This war lasted for 6 days, and Israel easily emerged victorious. Not only did Israel occupy the Gaza Strip and the West Bank area, but it also occupied the large Egyptian peninsula after this war. Palestinians wanted their own country. For this reason, in 1964, the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, was founded. Initially, their aim was to use weapons to achieve their goal, and they also wanted Israel to cease to exist. Because of this, the USA and Israel declared it to be a terrorist organization. However, in 1974, the PLO was officially recognized by the United Nations General Assembly as the representative of the Palestinian people. It had been more than 10 years since Israel had occupied the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. During this period, many Israelis started establishing colonies in the West Bank. They began building settlements and living there permanently, with direct or indirect support from the Israeli government. The prices of homes were low there, attracting some people seeking affordable housing, while others were driven by religious nationalism. Some fanatic Israelis claimed that the entire West Bank area belonged to them, leading them to reside there and resulting in the proliferation of Israeli settlements in the West Bank area. The international community deems these settlements to be illegal because they go against the United Nations partition plan, and the Palestinians see them as colonization. Basically, their country is being colonized by the Israelis. In 1992, Israel got an amazing prime minister named Yitzhak Rabin. He stated that the PLO is not a terrorist organization. They just want their country, and the Israelis should let them have it. Israel officially recognized the PLO, and in return, the PLO officially recognized Israel as a country. This led to the 1993 Oslo Accords, where both parties came together for the first time to discuss how the country could be correctly and peacefully divided and how the Palestinian country could be created. As a result, in 1994, the Palestinian government was established for the first time, named the Palestinian National Authority. However, at this point in time, Israelis had already established permanent settlements in many West Bank areas, which were supported by the Israeli government, while the Palestinians were living in few areas scattered in bits and pieces. It was then decided to divide the West Bank area into 3 parts, areas A, B, and C. Area A would be under the Palestinian government's control. In Area B, both governments would exercise control, and Area C would be under the Israeli government's control. In reality, in 1994, Palestine only obtained some bits and pieces of the West Bank area and the Gaza Strip to form their country. However, the good news is that at that point in time, Israel and Palestine were very close to coming up with a peaceful solution. For this reason, in 1994, the president of the Palestinian Authority, Yasser Arafat, and the Prime Minister of Israel, Yitzhak Rabin, were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Unfortunately, after this, the whole situation goes downhill when extreme right-wing Jewish people assassinate their prime minister. A Jewish extremist shot the Israeli prime minister thrice from a pistol at point-blank range in 1995. These fanatic Jewish people questioned the compromise with Palestine about why they were given any land at all. They wanted entire Palestine to be Israelis, and because of these fanatics, the situation kept on worsening. Around 5 to 6 years before this incident, some Islamic fanatics in Palestine formed the Hamas group. Hamas group claimed that the PLO is being too secular and compromising a lot with Israel. But in reality, they wanted to erase Israel from the maps. So the fanatics created a new organization to fight for the eradication of Israel, and therefore the Hamas group was formed. Obviously, When the peace treaty was signed in 1994 between Palestine and Israel, the Jewish fanatics started hating their prime minister, and on the other hand, the Hamas group started hating the PLO people. On both sides, the Israelis and Palestinians started hating each other. Some hatred was already there, and after 1995, it kept on increasing. Around 2002, violent protests were seen on both sides, with more than 100 Israelis and Palestinians dying. On the other side of the border, there were clashes on the ground, and the people had become so skeptical of each other that Israel started building walls around its settlements. Security guards were deployed around the permanent houses built by the Israelis in the West Bank, and checkpoints were placed, making it increasingly difficult for Palestinians to live there. In 2006, the Hamas militant group took part in the Palestinian election and won it, defeating the PLO party Fatah, but by a very small margin. It won 74 out of 132 seats, but after that, in 2007, a civil war took place between these two parties in Palestine internally. The supporters of one party started fighting the supporters of the other. This war is known as the Battle of Gaza. In 2007, Palestine was divided into two parts. In the Gaza Strip, Hamas established its control, and the West Bank area is controlled by Fatah and the PLO, who are non-violent and rule the West Bank as a government should. But today, when the Gaza Strip is under the rule of Hamas, they have basically occupied this area. The war and the rockets that we see are sent from the Gaza Strip area to Israel, whereas in the West Bank, where the PLO is in control, this sort of violence is not seen. So this is the situation today. There is no doubt that Israel has continued to colonize the West Bank area for several decades, causing the clashes to intensify. The recent clash, which I talked about at the beginning of this video, was because Israel is occupying the areas in the West Bank, and the fanatics in Israel demand that the entire West Bank area be theirs, that the entire Jerusalem be theirs. The fanatics in Palestine want to eradicate Israel completely. The most important question is, what can be the solution to this? Look at the map of Palestine. In the West Bank, the country is divided into so many parts that today, if this country were to be given an independent government, how will it exist in so many bits and pieces? Some people believe that a two-state solution can still be possible, that the area should be divided on the basis of 1967 between Israel and Palestine. Some people say that the division needs to be based on the 1948 partition plan, but if this is done, then the most prominent question will be, what will happen to the colonies of permanent settlement that Israel had built in Palestine? There are proper societies with homes, schools, hospitals, and wide roads. What will happen to these areas if they are reclaimed by Palestine? There are hundreds of thousands of people living in the settlements in the West Bank. Here, I would like to ask, what do you think could be the solution to this crisis? How should the two countries be divided? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please share it, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon for more videos. Thanks.